What is up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of the brand new Y Talk podcast. Now, we are formerly known as the Cougar Talk podcast. Look, we went through this off season and we were very unclear about what direction this podcast was heading. We kind of stopped recording after, I think, the UCF preview of last year, so that would have been around November. But we decided, you know what? We're going to restart this. We're going to do a refresh, restart it, do it right. So, brand new show, brand new logo, brand new, honestly, team surrounding this, brand new season. We're so excited to get into this, though. If you listen to the Cougar Talk podcast in the past, we're going to have some similar themes, similar segments, but this is a new show. We're going to have it a lot more conversational. I'm going to try to keep it a lot less scripted. Last time it felt like we tried too hard to stick to scripted points. Not going to go that way today, or in any episode, hopefully. Going to try to keep it a lot more conversational. I mean, it's called Y Talk. It's a conversation. It's not Y reading. That's a bad joke. But I'm so excited to get into this. So, with that said, welcome to the Y Talk podcast. Now, I'm your host, Dylan. If you want to follow me on Twitter, that's your loss. But my Twitter is @CertOpinion. I'm very disliked by a lot of Utah fans on Twitter. But if you're a BYU fan, go give me a follow. I'm your guy. Now, another thing. I am, full transparency, recording this sitting on a couch, which means I am holding my microphone in my hand rather than having it on the stand that I normally have on my desk. I'm in a new apartment. Don't have my desk or office set up yet. Once that is, though, I will have a stand for my mic. But in this case, I'm holding it, so if you hear feedback from the mic, if you hear me moving the mic around, just bear with me. We'll get it fixed and figured out for the next episode. But for now, it's just in my hands. I'm sitting on the couch in my living room. It's very comfortable, to be honest, so I'm not complaining. But might affect a little bit of the sound quality here. I'm really, really excited to dive into this episode, though. We're going to be talking a lot of things that went on during the off season. We're going to talk about preseason predictions, whether it's record, games, player awards, conference predictions. We're going to talk through some hot takes. We're going to talk through some opinions on the latest news. We're going to talk through even a player interview that I was able to do. So make sure you tune in for this episode. It's going to be a good one, and I'm really excited to dive into it. Now, starting off, this has felt like the longest preseason that I've experienced as a fan. I don't know what it was. It might have been me moving. It might have been all the off-season news going on. It might have been a combination of all of that. Starting off, though, BYU's quarterback situation. I think we're all aware of what was going on there. In case you somehow missed this, which I don't know how you would have to avoid social media like the plague if you missed this. Jake Retzloff, no longer at BYU. He had a civil case filed against him. We won't dive into too much of the details around that. That's a little bit too much controversy to go over in episode 1 here. But the big news surrounding this is he did step away from the program, and he has since transferred to Tulane. So currently, he is no longer even in Utah, no longer in the conference. He jumps over to Tulane. He's got a good QB battle ahead of him this fall camp. We'll see how he does. Outside of this, though, just a little bit of my opinion. Outside of the situation that he put himself in, which is a different opinion in and of itself, I do hope that he has success at Tulane. I do hope that he finds some playing time, and I hope things go well for him. In other news, we've also had a lot of really, really good success with recruiting this offseason, namely around Ryder Lyons. He's kind of been the biggest recruit of this class. Not kind of, he has been. He's been the biggest recruit of this class, 5-star quarterback out of Folsom, California. If you haven't watched him, this is going to be the season to watch him if you can. He's a Mission First kid, so it'll be a little bit before we see him at BYU, but super, super impressive grab and recruiting win from our staff. We've got a lot of good recruits coming in. Make sure you follow that closely. BYU is now, I believe, top 20 in the recruiting rankings right now, currently the way it stands, according to 24/7. Now, other big news from the team, a few transfers that we saw for people leaving BYU outside of Jake, of course. Miles Davis transferred over to Utah State. We had Crew Wakely transfer out to Purdue. Now, one last piece of news. We've got fall camp that started today, the day I'm recording this on Tuesday. Fall camp started today for BYU football. It's going to be going on now here, and I'm super excited to hear what we get from fall camp, to hear any news about the quarterback situation. It's a little bit of a competition between McKay Hillstead, we got Trayson, we got Bear Bachmeyer. It's going to be a closer race than a lot of people think. We've got McKay, who has experience starting at Utah State. We got Trayson, who had experience starting at Western Michigan. And, of course, we got Bear Bachmeyer, younger brother of Hank Bachmeyer, who started at Boise State for a few years, jumped around to different schools. But Bear and his brother Tiger actually transferred over into BYU, and I'm excited to see how Bear can do, how he can shape up. He is a true freshman, but I do think he has the highest ceiling of the group. More so going to be a question of if he's ready for the pace of college football, if he's ready with learning the playbook, if he's ready to really take the reins as a starting quarterback as a true freshman. If so, it'd be fun to see. Now, I want to go over a lot of the incoming transfers and some of the difference makers there, but I'm actually going to save that for later on in this episode. For now, though, I actually want to talk through one of the players that I'm most excited to see play this year, and that's going to be Therrian Alexander III, otherwise known as Trey. Very, very fun BYU player for a lot of us fans. I think he's one of those guys that connects really, really well with the fan base. He's very real, he's very genuine, and it shows. And I think a lot of Cougar Nation, if you don't love him already, you're going to love him after this. So I actually had the awesome opportunity to interview Trey yesterday. Super, super down-to-earth kid. Super excited to watch him take a step this year. He talks a little bit about that in this interview, so let's go ahead and throw it over to the interview that we recorded yesterday. All right, everyone. Well, I'm super excited to have today's guest interview on here. It's going to be an episode I think a lot of you are excited to listen to for this interview specifically, so this is probably the portion of the podcast episode that you were looking forward to the most. But why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, my man? Let the people know who you are.
I'm Therrian Alexander III, a.k.a. Trey, Ellenwood, Georgia. I'm going into my true sophomore year at BYU. I'm wearing number 1 this year, and I'm ready to make an impact all across the field on defense and special teams once again.
Talk me through a little bit about the change in number there, because you were 24, right? You're switching over to 1?
Yeah, it's a lot. Like, part of it, wearing number 1 is obviously it's a big task, because 9 times out of 10, somebody who wears number 1 is off his team is one of the best players on his team. So with me, it was a conversation with Coach Hill that was had and the equipment staff, obviously, and we talked about it. And I felt like I was ready for it. He felt like I was ready for it. So it was something that was, just done. And I wore number 1 my senior year in high school, and that's when I had the best year of my high school career. So, and I wore it as a kid for a little bit. So for me, wearing number 1 is definitely a privilege, but I like it because, it made me play to a certain level. Like, I always tell people, you can't wear number 1 and sit on the bench and not make plays. Like, you just can't do that. So it's gonna make me elevate my game.
And that's I think something that I'm looking forward to seeing from you this year is you've gotten through kind of your first introduction to BYU and college football and ready to watch the next step, right?
Yeah.
Let's switch things before we dive into too much of the BYU focused stuff, though. Let's talk a little bit you personally. Let the fans get to know you a little bit deeper. Starting off, who or what inspired you to play football in the beginning?
I would say my dad. He played football growing up or whatever. He played in high school. He played in college as well, actually. And he the first one who put me around the game of football. He was always a football coach, even before I was born. So I was going to the park from the age of 2-3 years old, walking around, being around football. I started playing when I was 4 years old. And my dad coached me my whole youth ball career. He coached me a little bit in middle school, and he coached me all throughout high school. So I should definitely say my dad. Like, me and him, I've been playing football, 15 years now, and I want to say at least 12 or 13 of those years, the practice, the to and from practice with my dad. So, yeah, my dad definitely started everything for me.
I love that. And has football always been kind of your main sport, or did you play other sports as well growing up?
I played other sports growing up, but football always been where my heart was. My dad would he would take all the football kids on my team. He'd put us in basketball so we stay out of trouble and stay in condition or whatever. And then when I got to middle school, I ran track for 3 meets and then stopped. And then in high school, I ran for 2 years, won state, number one in the nation, all that type of stuff. So football always been my main sport, but I did a little bit of everything.
Awesome. Kind of expand your tool belt a little bit there with sports, right?
Yeah, my parents firm believers in kids got to play more than one sport. Because I also played t-ball growing up. Then in middle school, I played baseball. So I did it all growing up.
No, I love that. And kind of to that point, there's a lot of kids that I know personally, my brother included, playing sports all over the place, all the time, all these different sports all throughout the year. Do you have any advice or recommendations for a kid who might be looking for what sport to stick with, or kind of how to decide what their main sport is, and any advice along those lines?
Honestly, I would say when you're young, play as many sports as you can for as long as possible. And I feel like the sport to choose is itself for you. Because obviously, when you get to an age where you can start getting recruited or you start seeing people grow and the body types change, you would know what you're truly good at and where your true love is. I feel like it'll choose itself. With me, I've been doing football my whole life, so there was no doubt in my mind what I was going to do. And I happened to grow to be 6'1" in high school, and, the body started to fill out. So I feel like if you're good at something, it'll naturally just show itself to you. But when you're young, man, play everything because you're only going to be so young and athletic for once in your life.
I love that. Well, let's talk a little bit about outside of sports for a second here. I'm curious, are there any hobbies or activities outside of sports that you love to do in your free time? For example, I know Travis Hunter in his vlogs, he always showed him fishing all the time in Colorado. What's that for you? How do you escape the world of sports and even the world of school as a college student right now?
Yeah, part of that for me also is fishing. I'm from Georgia, so me and my dad, we grew up I've been going fishing since I was probably 4 years old. I've been regular bass fishing, crappie fishing, line fishing, deep sea fishing. I done did it all. So fishing is a part for me that I do. But also for the most part, I just literally just be chilling. I might sit in the house or I might go to JoJo's house. Me and him might just sit up telling jokes. I might still talk to Keelan once in a while, kicking, telling jokes. I just be chilling for the most part outside of, practice or whatever. Because it takes a large portion of my life. So with me to really escape from everything, even doing practice actually and the games, I'm always telling jokes, always staying mellow all the way through.
And I think personally, at least from my perspective, I think that's why fans connect with you so well is you give off a very relaxed, mellow vibe and just someone who you can connect with very easily because of that. So I love that.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, during the game and practice and stuff like that, people don't raw emotion always come out of me. You guys, my teammates,
right.
I'm real animated or whatever when the game starts because that's just passion just take over. But I also know with me, I gotta tell jokes because if I get too hyper and I go out there, I might get a sportsmanlike penalty or whatever. So I gotta keep myself level headed all the way through.
There you go. Keeps you kind of balanced out a little bit there.
Yeah, most definitely.
Awesome. Well, one thing I've also noticed a lot about you is you seem to have a very strong desire to give back wherever you're at, whether it's back home in Atlanta or whether it's here in Utah and Provo. Talk me through a little bit of just what's your reasoning behind that? What's your motivation? What inspires you to, give back so much? I mean, you had your event yesterday back in Georgia. Talk me through a little bit how that went too and how that got started up.
I definitely say my desire to give back always goes back to, growing up, I always prayed to God to make it to this position. And when I got to this position, I knew I didn't do it by myself. And I knew it was people who looked out for me along the way. So now that I'm getting NIL money or whatnot, it would be selfish for me to use it for all, just on myself and not give back to other people. Genesis 12:2, it says something along the lines of, God bless you, so be a blessing to others. And I really take that to heart because, if I have enough, why not give back to somebody else? And then it's going to multiply itself tenfold. So with me, I always want to give back. I have fun in it. That's probably the best, thing that I could say I have done in my whole college career is giving back. And yesterday, the event was good. We had, I want to say close to 100 book bags. All of them were gone. We had free haircuts. I had spent we spent a couple $100 on the haircuts. We had free ices. They ran. That was all the way through. Everything we had yesterday basically sold out or ran out. So it was a great event. Kids had a good time. There's going to be a video coming out soon to kind of show behind the scenes and everything. But the way it went, I had a camp back home in April. And that was a success with probably 100 kids. Maybe, no, it was probably like closer to 200 kids. So I text my homeboy Sam. He go to Auburn, and my other one, BG, he go to University of West Georgia. And I was like, what y'all think about doing a back-to-school drive? And they was with it. I talked to my parents. And then my dad and Coach Quincy Carter, they helped do the rest, get it all set up.
That's awesome. That's a really great show out, too, for people to give up some of their time in the summer, especially to go to a back-to-school event. So that's awesome that you did that, and I'm glad it sounds like it was very successful. And I'm excited for that video. For any fans listening, be on the lookout for that video because that'll be really cool and fun to see. Now, let's transition here. Fall camp starting this week. It's Wednesday, right, that you're starting up?
Yeah, we start Wednesday.
And so let's transition to this a little bit here. I feel like there's been a lot of focus around the offense and the changes of the offense this year, rightfully so. I mean, when you go through changes like that, it's going to be the focus here. But the defense has had a lot of newcomers, a lot of changes there as well. I'm curious from your perspective on the defensive side of things, is there any specific, player that's a newcomer, whether it's a freshman or a transfer that you expect to make the biggest impact and that you think BYU fans should keep our eyes on?
Newcomer-wise, obviously, Keanu. That's the most obvious answer I can honestly be truthfully. But as far as a person who I feel like really two people that I feel like will make the biggest leaps besides myself that I've seen. That was on the team last year, but, obviously didn't play as much. Tommy Practice, I would be the first one to say Tommy probably going to have an All-American type of year. I worked out with him the whole offseason. His body changed, mentality changed, technique looks amazing. So I know he's going to have a big year. And then Jonathan Cabella, I also worked out with him all offseason. So I got to see his progression all offseason. So honestly, those two guys will have like All-American, All-Conference type of years for sure and be cornerstones for our secondary.
You mentioned Keanu. I know a lot of people have brought up him kind of stepping up as a leader, things like that. I'm curious, just in terms of a leader, from both offense and defensive side of the ball, are there players specifically that stand out to you as kind of the main vocal leaders, or is it kind of just everyone has the same mentality, everyone holds themselves to the same standard? What's kind of that dynamic look like with all these changes through the offseason?
Offense, I would say the most obvious and consistent leader is definitely Chase Roberts. Chase is the one who helped plan a lot of the team activities. He's the one who give a lot of speeches before we go into conditioning workouts and stuff like that. So offensively, I definitely say Chase is the one who's been holding the glue together as the status of the offense. Because, we lost C-Pay last year, who was a captain at center or whatever. So, and then with the quarterback situation. So now Chase been holding that together pretty well. In the defense, Keanu, he's more of an animated leader for sure. T-Wall, he's the one that's kind of close to Coach Hill, I would say. T-Wall kind of keeps everything level-headed. He gives us those coach dad-type speeches. Yeah, so I'd say T-Wall for sure on defense.
That's awesome, and that's one I don't think a lot of fans will see, so I love that insight because, Keanu is, as you mentioned, he's the animated one, but I can definitely see it being Tanner as well. I love that. Now, my next question for you, in terms of the schedule, you're looking at the schedule. I know the obvious answer is Utah. So if that's your answer, I want to hear more about that. But I want to hear about the games that you're looking forward to the most this season.
There's 3 games for me that I personally have circled. We're really more than 3, honestly. 4 of them that I could really highlight. The first one, Eastern Carolina, that's just for me. I get to go back to the East Coast, play in front of a lot of family members. So anytime I get to do that, that's always a good thing. Second one, Colorado game, it's going to be a high-emotion game for them coming off of what the bowl game was like. And I'm excited to go into that atmosphere as our first non-conference game on the road with a lot of noise and having the team stay focused. So we can realize that last year's team is gone. It's a new team. We're going to have to go in there and we're going to have to handle our business because they're going to come out there with their best punch. So I'm looking forward to that game. And then Iowa State, his reason to me was last year they got the nod over us for the Big 12 championship, and they went out there and got steamrolled. Then the year before, they came to our home stadium and beat us pretty bad. For me, Iowa State is definitely a game you got to look forward to. If you're a football player, you're a competitor, that's a game that gets you going and gets you excited. And the last game with me is West Virginia. They also beat us pretty bad. And, it's a little personal bad blood with me and, West Virginia, honestly. So I'm just looking for all them games right there. I'm ready to play them.
No, I love those answers. I think for me, West Virginia is definitely one I have circled on there as well. That's one that I'm excited to watch. And we get them at home this time, so see if we can flip it around on them this time. I want to talk a little bit through your recruitment as well. You're from Georgia. You were recruited by Georgia Tech, and from my understanding, it was, in at least your final schools, there was BYU, there was Georgia Tech. What kind of helped you, I guess, or what was the biggest factor in you coming to BYU rather than staying closer to home with Georgia Tech?
People might not know this, but the whole Georgia Tech thing, for one, that was all social media. I was never going to Georgia Tech. I remember we can call my mom and ask her. I was in the 10th grade. I went to Georgia Tech for a recruiting visit or whatnot, just to go to the game and spell my name wrong. And I remember going back home and telling my mom I'd never go to that school because, to me, that's the simplest thing you can do is get a person's name spelled right. So when they spelled my name wrong, I just told my mom I never played there. And then with them, shout out Coach Brent Keto because he became a new head coach. He had a different staff, fired all the old guys who handled recruitment wrong. But Georgia Tech didn't recruit a lot of guys in the city well. Like with my recruitment with Georgia Tech, coaches was supposed to come to my high school game, come watch me play, and basically never did. So Brent Key fired him and whatnot. Then I want to say 2 weeks or 3 weeks before signing day, they called me. They offered me a scholarship. I took a visit that same weekend. Everything was cool with the new staff, but with me, I just felt like once the level of disrespect is reached, it's just no going back. And then BYU was so genuine through the whole process. Coach G had came to watch me play a whole game before Georgia Tech had did, and my school was maybe 15 minutes away from Georgia Tech. Coach G came to Atlanta numerous times. I've seen him numerous times. Coach Kalani came, Coach Hill came, Coach Pop came a bunch of times. So with me, anytime I feel like a whole coaching staff is invested into me and the whole program is invested into me, why would I just choose somewhere because it's closer to home? And I grew up in Atlanta. Atlanta can be dangerous. So with me, I just want to get out and see something new for college as well. So I was never going to Georgia Tech. If I was going to go anywhere else, it would have been Texas A&M or USC, honestly.
Awesome. No, I love that. You brought up the coaches going out to visit you. Talk me through kind of your first impression with Kalani specifically. What was maybe that first interaction like, or your first thoughts when you met Kalani in person?
Kalani was so cool. He was hella chill. The way he is now is the way he truly is. So when he came in town, my mom cooked. We had a big dinner or whatever, and Kalani was just Kalani had a couple plates, probably 3 or 4, and he was just man. He was we've been traveling all day, having to eat airport food. He's I'm just happy I can get a real meal. And then he was yeah, can I take something to go? And then my mama packed him a plate, take home, and go back to the hotel and enjoy. So me and Kalani was definitely cool. He real genuine. He's not one of those coaches that come in and try to talk a lot or try to do too much. He truly is who he say he is. He preaches the same things that he preaches now in family, football, and faith. So Kalani was, all the way through and through genuine.
Now, one other question I have for you, and then we can kind of start wrapping this up and give you some of your time back. With this whole big season coming up, we're coming off a season with a lot of success, a little bit of disappointment with not making the playoffs, of course, not making the championship game. And we're honestly at a point in the offseason where it's been long enough to where there's questions that, of course, come up, like with every team. If you could say one thing to Cougar Nation right now to either give us confidence in y'all or just to get us hyped, what would your message be to Cougar Nation right now?
My message simply would be, last year before the season, we were sitting in the same position. We didn't know who our quarterback was going to be, but we knew that we was a brotherhood and we knew how hard we worked all offseason. So the people who are going to ride with us, just go ahead, invest your time and energy in us like y'all did last offseason. There's a lot of unknowns. Y'all said the quarterbacks wasn't that good. Y'all said the schemes wasn't that good. We went out and won 11 games in the Big 12. Honestly, if y'all really believe in us like y'all say y'all do, either get on the ship with us or don't. But either way it go, we know what we're capable of and we know what we're going to do as a team for sure. Most definitely.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today. This is super, super good to get to know you at a more personal level than just what we see on social media and on the field. But I appreciate your time today. And I know Cougar Nation appreciates you, and we're excited to see you on August 30th.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Again, huge shout out to Trey. Super grateful that he was able to take the time and jump on with me and give me some of his time just to chat about football, chat about this season, chat about him as a person. Like I was saying before, he's one of those dudes who you can just tell is very real, very humble kid. He's worked for everything he has, and he deserves a lot of success. Now let's go over a little bit of this season. Now, part of the conversation with Trey there was talking through this year's schedule, so let's dive into that here. I know that's probably why you're here, other than the interview with Trey, of course, as well. But I know you want to hear about predictions, you want to hear about preseason preview, so let's dive into that right now. Let's go through the schedule here. We've got our out-of-conference lineup starting on Saturday, August 30th, at home against Portland State. We get the Vikings at home. Then we get a home game again the next week versus Stanford. That is Bear and Tigers' former team. Also, LJ originally was committed there. So we get a little fun matchup against some former teammates, hopefully. Then on the 20th of September, we're at East Carolina for our final out-of-conference game. That's going to be an interesting one. I know a lot of people were not too thrilled that we are giving a game at East Carolina to them, but we did it with Wyoming last year. We took care of it. We'll take care of it this year. Now, then we switch into conference play. First conference game is the 27th. We start away at Colorado. Then we get home against West Virginia, at Arizona. Then we get at home against Utah. That's the one everyone's going to be talking about, I know. Then we get at Iowa State. Then after Iowa State, we have a bye week. After the bye week, we get Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech is going to be at Texas Tech. Then we're at home against TCU, at Cincinnati, and then rounding things up with a home game against UCF. So it's going to be a good schedule. I mean, it's built out to give us what we need for a good resume, but it's also not going to be incredibly impossible to have a good season here. When you take a look at this schedule, there's a few games that stand out. For me, specifically, the games that stand out are, of course, Utah. Get Utah at home, see if we can make it 3 in a row. We've got ISU. ISU is really, really, really good. I don't want to underestimate them. I don't hear enough fans talking about them, to be honest, and you're going to hear about my thoughts of them as a team, actually, here coming up. Iowa State's really good. Texas Tech is the other one. Texas Tech is going to be really good this year, especially on defense, in my opinion. That's going to be a really tough one. The other game, though, that I'm really looking forward to is West Virginia. We get them at home this time. Last time we played in Morgantown, really, they took care of business. It wasn't even close. It was during that rough stretch of Jake's first games that he was starting. It was brutal. It was a brutal matchup. That one and Iowa State. I mean, Iowa State we had at home that year, but last time we played these teams, it was heartbreaking. We lost to TCU as well. So it'll be interesting to see how these kind of rematches go. But those are the ones that I really have circled on my calendar. Let's talk through my predictions with each of them. Look, I think, full honesty, from what I've heard from players, from what I've heard from people within the team, from people with ties to the team, I'm personally really high on this BYU team. I know it's a shocker, right? Host of a BYU podcast, really high on a BYU team. But let's talk about this a little bit here. Now, when we take a look at last season's success, it was a surprise to some people. But last season's success was a result, I think, of a really big chip on our shoulders, a lot of people doubting us, and a lot of hard work and discipline. I don't think that drops off from this year. And honestly, the main changes are quarterback, which I'll go over again in a second here. I don't see as much of a drop-off in that position. Also, a few defensive changes, but again, not too much drop-off there either. So with that said, I think my personal prediction for the season, our floor is an 8-4 season, and our ceiling is 11-1 playing in the Big 12 championship. I think realistically, we are going to end up somewhere in the range of 9-3 or 10-2. I see our losses for sure being to ISU, mostly because we get Iowa State after a stretch of playing at Arizona and then at home versus Utah. So even though it's home, it's Utah, it's a rivalry game, it's never an easy game. And then we play at Iowa State. That is the most brutal stretch in this entire schedule. Dead honest. It's full transparency. I don't see us getting out of Ames with a win. And then, of course, we have our bye week, and then we're playing at Texas Tech. I don't see us beating Texas Tech either, just because their strength overpowers and is matched up directly against our weakness. I think our weakness is going to be really exposed there with quarterback play, most likely. Here's the thing with Texas Tech. They've got a really, really good defense. They've got Jacob Rodriguez at linebacker. I think he's going to be the player of the year on the defense for the conference. I think he's going to be such a big difference maker. I'm not sure I see us beating Texas Tech. They match up really, really well against us, and I'll go over more numbers as that game comes up for that game preview. And even though I do predict actually BYU finishing higher in the conference standing than Texas Tech, I do think Texas Tech grabs a win against us. Now, one game that I have kind of another question mark, I would call it, in my prediction here, where I could see it going either way, is West Virginia. I know we get them at home. That home field advantage is going to be big here. West Virginia is going through a bit of a rebuild, but I don't think people are understanding how successful they could be very soon. I mean, they got the coach back who made it work with Gino, who made Gino who he was. We've got a lot of good transfers coming in. We've got a lot of good returners coming back in. So I do think that West Virginia is going to do better than a lot of people are going to give them credit for, especially compared to last year. Now, with that said, official predictions for the season, though, I'm going to call it 10-2. I'm going to say 10-2 with our losses against Iowa State and Texas Tech. The close games are going to be between Utah, of course. I could see it being close against West Virginia. Then I'm also going to go ahead and throw in that TCU game. I think that one will be close as well. But if we can sneak a win against Texas Tech, sneak a win against Iowa State, who knows what we could do. It could be a special year. Now, talking through a little bit of predictions in terms of player awards that we give and player awards, of course, that the conference and such gives. For BYU specifically, my prediction for the best player of the year for offense, I'm going to give it to LJ Martin. A lot of focus, even from me, has been on this receiving core. I think LJ is going to be the backbone of the offense this year. I think he needs to be the backbone of this offense this year. We need him to be healthy. We need him to increase his speed just a little bit. If he could do that, he can make that jump. But with the new quarterback coming in, with the whole quarterback situation, the best thing we can get going for us is having a good season from LJ Martin. If he's healthy, I think we could even see a 1,000-yard season coming from him. So he's my prediction for Offensive Player of the Year. On the defensive side of the ball, a lot of focuses, of course, rightfully so, on Jack Kelly, likely going to get drafted to the NFL after this year. We did lose Harrison Taggart to the transfer portal. I failed to mention him earlier. I think, though, that the Defensive Player of the Year is going to be a linebacker. Not Jack Kelly, though. It's going to be Isaiah Glasker. Isaiah Glasker immediately made a jump last season. From the first game he stood out, there was I believe it was a 4th down and 1 or 2 quarterback rollout, kind of QB draw situation where he closed the distance so fast and made a tackle barely to prevent that first down from happening against Southern Illinois. It wasn't a huge game-changing play, but it's one where I remember watching it as it happened. I said, oh, he's made a jump, hasn't he? And it continued on through the season. I mean, he led the team in tackles for loss last year. He straight up, I would argue even he was our best defender last year. I think it's a close draw between him and a few other guys, but he led in tackles for loss, led in even tackles, I believe. I'm double checking right now here. Yeah, he led the team in total tackles. He had 3.5 sacks, which I believe is also a team high. Did he lead the team in sacks? No, Jack Kelly led the team in sacks, but he was right behind Jack. He had 3 interceptions, which as a linebacker is insane, 4 pass deflections, and a pick 6 against Arizona. He had a forced fumble last year. So I think again, we see another season where at the end of the offseason, once kickoff starts on August 30th, we're going to immediately see that Isaiah has taken another step, and I think he's going to be kind of the clear-cut best defender on the team next year. I think he's entering draft conversations next year. Now, we also like to, on this podcast, talk through some dark horse candidates as well, kind of guys that we think are underrated for fans, currently not talked about enough, that we expect to be kind of the best players on the team, too. For offense, my dark horse candidate is going to be Tiger Bachmeier. He's coming over from Stanford, as I mentioned before, transferring over with his brother Bear, both younger brothers of Hank Bachmeier. Tiger is one of those dudes who, I'm going to make an insane comparison here, so bear with me, buckle up. he makes me think of Puka Nacua. He's very clean with his routes. He might not always be the super fastest player on the field at a time, but he's got great hands. He's got clean routes. I think he's going to be receiver number 2 by the end of the year. Dark horse for the defense. This is a guy that I think is going to take a huge step this year. That's going to be Jonathan Cabella. I think he's going to have a largely increased role on this defense, especially replacing a really good cornerback in Jacob Robinson. I think he is one of those guys who, you heard it from Trey himself. I think he's one of those guys you can expect to take a huge jump this year and go into, at the end of this year, next season, I think he's going to be one of those guys where we're also talking about draft. We're also talking about all conference awards like Trey mentioned. I think he's one of those guys who I think we're going to really need him and thrive on him in this defense. Now, I went back and forth with having the dark horse candidate be Jonathan Cabella, Tommy Prasis, or Trey Alexander. All 3 guys that Trey brought up himself, but I've got to give this one, since I can only give it to one, I'm going to give it to him. Then we have our special teams player of the year. I forgot to mention this earlier. I don't think it needs mentioning, though. Will Therrian. No explanation needed. Newcomer of the year, I'm giving it to Keanu Tanavasa. He's been very vocal about wanting to step up as a leader for this team. I think he has a chip on his shoulder. He's wanting to prove that he can make it to the next level especially. I think he's going to be our newcomer of the year this year. I think he's going to be a really big contributor to us having a much better pass defense and pass rush especially. So I'm going to give that to him. And then we're going to do things a little bit different. I know I had the dark horse candidate, but this is going to be the biggest step. Someone where I think we see thrives in an increased workload, someone who I think we see takes a huge step in terms of leadership, in terms of on-field ability, in terms of success, and I am going to give that one to Trey Alexander. I think outside of what he said to me about how much he's worked, how much him, Tommy, and Jonathan have worked, they know how needed they're going to be on this defense. They know the shoes that they have to fill in here. I think Trey is going to be making the biggest step compared to anybody else on this team. I think he is going to be one of those guys where, to be honest, it doesn't always show on a stat sheet. It's how it was for a little bit there with Jacob Robinson, where teams are a little bit afraid to try him. I think we're going to see him get his first turnover this year. He didn't have any last year. He almost did against Wyoming. He also mentioned he's going to be on special teams a lot. I'd love to see him force a fumble on special teams. That would be cool. But I think we see him with his first pick this year, and hopefully more than just one. But I think he's going to make the biggest step, and I think he's going to be someone that we can really, really rely on. Now, of course, the thing that does bring me comfort as well is he's surrounded by still some veteran guys in the defensive back room. I mean, he's got Tanner Wall back there. He's got Raider DeMooney. He's also got Evan Johnson, Maury Bamba. We've got some guys back there. Even though we lost some of our best defensive backs, we've still got some guys who are really good back there. I think he's going to learn from them, and I think he's going to make a huge step. Now then, we also have our Coach of the Year award. It's hard to not give it to Jay Hill, so I am going to give my prediction here to Jay Hill. Jay won his games last year. I mean, I don't think anybody can deny that. There were a lot of games the offense struggled. There were a lot of games that the defense won it for us. You look at SMU, big shout out to the defense for that one. You take a look at Utah. Utah was scoreless in the second half because of our defense. We don't win that Utah game without our defense and without Will Ferrin. So I'm giving the Coach of the Year to Jay Hill. I think he's going to do his thing again this year, have the defense ready. Last year, it was really statistically and for the majority of people's opinions, BYU had the best defense last year in the Big 12. I think we see that again this year. Now, that's a lot of different awards there. Again, we had a lot of newcomers come in with Tiger, Keanu. Now, we've even got a kind of overlooked receiver transfer in Reggie. I'm going to butcher this one too. Fish Connect from Weber State. He had some time at Snow College as well. I think Reggie is a guy that could have an impact on this offense. 6'4", 200 pounds. Dude's really, really big. It makes me think a little bit of Nick Kurtz or Taryn Houck. Not saying production-wise or style-wise, but just in terms of size. That's where I could see him fitting role-wise in this offense. We've also got Hunter Clegg coming over, home from his mission. Transfer, technically, he was going to Utah, now at BYU. Those are some other guys that I think will take big steps. I think with an increased workload, we see Sione Moa, the running back, take some big steps as well. There's a lot of guys that I think are going to step up this year. So with that said, just still on the topic of predictions, whether it's the predictions for the awards, predictions for the team, for the record, for the season, I'm not too worried about this team. I'm bought in on this team. Honestly, I think we've got a lot of really good guys in here. Of course, we need fall camp for the chemistry to gel with them, for them to all be on the same page with the playbook, with everything. But even outside of that, with it taking some time to get that chemistry built, we have Chase Roberts back still. We have Cody Hagan entering his second year. Cody, I think, is going to be an impact player. Tay Nakua as well. I think he's going to be an impact player. Also on offense, we have, as I mentioned, Sione Moa. We have Waylon Lapuaho. We have Bruce Mitchell. We have Isaiah Jota. We have guys that are returning that are going to be good. And so I'm not overly concerned about the players we lost, only in the fact that I trust the guys that we still got. I don't think we need to focus on the guys that we lost because we've got some really good guys here still. On defense too, I mean, we lost Harrison Taggart, but who did we gain? Well, we gained Keanu Tanavasa for the defensive line. Who's going to step up? We got Miles Hall, who saw really big minutes last year, especially at the end of the season. Stood his own against Colorado. So I'm not overly concerned. We've got Evan Johnson, Shmev. We've got Maury Bamba, Tommy. We've got Trey and Jonathan. We've got Raider. We've got Tanner. We've got, also not even mentioned, Falatau. Falatau could make a big step at safety from this next year. I'll throw this in here as well. A little bit of an opinion. I'd love to see Falatau try out a little bit of a linebacker position. Make that switch. I'm curious what that would look like. He's kind of the size, height-wise, I should clarify, kind of the size of Isaiah Glasker there. I feel like we could see him thrive in a linebacker spot, especially like a coverage linebacker. I personally would love to see that. I trust Jay to make the right decisions, of course, and we need more safeties. We need good safeties, so I'm happy with him there too. That's just my opinion. I think it'd be cool to see. Now, let's switch this over. I want to talk a little bit about my hot takes. I've got two hot takes. They're hot takes, but reasonably hot takes. And I've got one burning hot take, a big hot take that I don't think I'm going to get anyone agreeing with me on that one. But let's start off with this first one. I think at the end of this season, we are actually going to see I think we are going to see more forced turnovers. That's a tongue twister. This season than we did last season. Last season, we saw 22 interceptions, 9 forced fumbles, 7 fumble recoveries for 29 total turnovers on the year. I think we see that increase to over 30. Main reason being our pass rush is going to improve. It's going to lead to a lot more chaos, a lot more opportunity for interceptions. Where we do lose Jacob Robinson, we lose someone who had a lot of the interceptions for us last year. But again, I think we see some guys get some extra reps here that still get those turnovers. The defensive scheme, it's staying the same. It's not changing, and I think that brings us a lot of success. And so I think we are looking at a season with over 30 turnovers. My other hot take is another stat that we're going to do better this year than we did last year in. That's going to be passing yards. Now let's dive into this a little bit. This opens up a whole nother wormhole that we are going to jump down together here. That's going to be this quarterback situation. I think we're at a point where no matter who's going to be starting at the quarterback position, we need to have a simple offense. I think we had a simple offense with Jake, to be completely honest, but Jake made a lot of checks. Jake was responsible for a lot of that success. I'm not trying to downplay him as a player. Average quarterback play, though, gets us a similar season as last year. Last year, total passing yards, we had just over 3,000. We had 3,007 to be exact. But some of that came from Parker Kingston. Some of that came from Gary Bohannon. I believe the total from Jake himself was around 2,900, something around that. I think that's able to be replicated this year, no matter who's starting at quarterback. I mean, you've got Trayson. Trayson has a good arm. He's decently mobile. You got McKay. He's shown he has a good arm. What he did with Jalen Royals at Utah State was awesome, and that was with a terrible offensive line to protect him. And then you got Bear. From what I've heard, Bear, skill set wise and talent wise, is actually better than any of our other options. The one thing is going to be he's a true freshman who has not played a snap of college football, and is on a brand new team. So he's not going to be ready with the playbook. But even if Bear plays, I think no matter who starts for us at quarterback throughout the season, if it changes even, I think what we're going to see here is going to be a focus on getting the ball to our best players. It's going to be a very simple but very effective approach, whether it's passing the ball to Chase Roberts, passing the ball to Carson Ryan, someone I haven't even mentioned, who is also coming in here at tight end, great receiving tight end. If it's getting the ball to any of those guys, I can see us passing that 3,000 mark for passing yards this year pretty easily. I mean, you take a look at our games last year and the stats in those games and our best wins, we didn't even have great quarterback play. Again, not trying to downplay losing Jake at all here, not trying to downplay him as a player, but our best wins, arguably, SMU, Colorado, Utah, he struggled in those games. And I think with average quarterback play, which can be provided from any of those guys, we are having a very successful season like last year. So I think my hot take for that one is going to happen. I think we're going to get more than 3,000 passing yards, and we're going to see an increase there. Now, here is my flamin' hot take. This is one that I've convinced myself kind of, but this is what I'm just going to say it. So if it happens, I get credit for it. This is my shot in the dark, Hail Mary hot take. I think when we're looking at the end of this season, we are going to see one of these three players between Chase Roberts, LJ Martin, and whoever starts for us at quarterback. One of those three guys will end the season in Heisman conversation. I'm not saying Heisman finalist. I'm not saying they're even going to New York. I'm not saying they're going to win it. But what I am saying is when we get to that point in the season where it's close enough to where we're really talking about the Heisman conversation, one of those three guys will be in there. The reason being, one, Chase. If it's Chase, new quarterback situation, new offense, Chase is going to need to be our leader. He is our leader. It's very clear. Trey said it. Everybody knows it. Chase is stepping up as the leader. I expect a big season from him. Last year, I believe I don't even know if he had, I want to say it was 2 drops the entire season. It felt like everything thrown his way he caught. I mean, you think of the UCF touchdown right before halftime. There was also a stat at one point, I can't remember how accurate or how long it lasted, but there's a stat where it was basically there were X amount of throws to him that were either for a first down or for a touchdown. And it was like 90% of his receptions were a first down or a touchdown. The dude just is efficient. The dude catches anything thrown his way. I expect a big year from him. Now on the flip side, new quarterback. We're going to rely on the run game a lot too. LJ Martin has a big opportunity here. I'm very high on Sione Moa as well, but I want LJ to be our every down back. I want LJ to be in there getting the rock as much as possible. Break a few of them away. We saw it against Utah a couple times. We saw it against Colorado. He had some touchdowns. I want to see a fully healthy LJ. We've seen his peak. I want that peak to last. I want that to be a full season. So if that happens, he could be up there. And then, of course, the starting quarterback. That's the hottest part of this hot take. Whoever's starting at quarterback being in that conversation. I think, though, my reasoning here is with a simplified offense, it's going to emphasize what A-Rod loves the most, and that's taking care of the ball. What we're going to be seeing, I think, is with McKay specifically, at Utah State, his turnovers a lot of times were a result of those around him. That's all I'm going to say about it. With Trayson, he could fling it, but again, at Western Michigan, he's not surrounded by the best tools, the best weapons. And then, of course, with Bear, dual threat, the dude can run. If you haven't seen that clip of him in high school, there's a clip of him running down the sideline and completely bulldozing this dude into the end zone. Bear's a beast. Bear's a tank. He could have a Taysom Hill-like season. That's the hottest take of all. True freshman having a Taysom Hill-like season. So I think one of those three could be in that Heisman conversation. Now, those are some hot takes. I would love to hear your thoughts on those. Let me know. Go ahead and hit me a DM, comment something on Instagram or on Twitter, whatever it might be. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Now, outside of all those predictions, though, those are some hot takes, some crazy predictions. Either way, I'm excited for the season. I'm really excited to see what this team can do. It's going to be a really good test for a lot of guys on this team. I want to carry the momentum from last season, especially to help with maintaining some of these commits that we have. Let's just set ourselves up for a good future with BYU football. Really cannot wait for football season to start. Last season on Cougar Talk, before we made the change to Y Talk, on Cougar Talk we always had a segment where we talked about teams that we're excited to watch or are watching outside of BYU. I'm not going to do that every week. It's still going to be just general college football talk, but I want to focus a little bit more on BYU. But with that said, some teams just that I'm going to talk about in this episode only that I am going to have my eyes on or that I'm excited to watch this season in college football. Number one, of course, I'm going to say is going to be Ohio State. Curious to see how they do with losing a bunch of guys to the draft, but also super excited to watch Jeremiah Smith. I'm a Geno Smith guy. Jeremiah Smith is his cousin, for those who don't know. I'm excited to see what Jeremiah can do. With that said, though, I'm also excited, this is a little bit of a plot twist, to watch Michigan. I want to see how Michigan does this year. They had an off year last year, but they're still with a new staff. I'm so curious to see if they can make the jump this year, though, and how much they can improve. Another team I got my eyes on, Miami, mostly because of Keelan Marion transferring out of BYU over to Miami, the super talented kick returner and receiver. I'm curious to see if Miami can finally make the jump, but at the same point, as much as they gained guys from the portal like Keelan, like Carson Beck from Georgia, they also lost a lot of dudes to the draft. They lose a couple guys actually to my Seahawks. So very curious to see how they are as a team next year. I personally think the team to beat next year, though, could very well possibly be Clemson. They've got a really good team. Penn State's going to be up there, of course. They've got a returning quarterback, Drew Aller, who was really talented. So there's a few teams that I've got my eyes on for this next year that I'm excited to watch. I feel like this last draft actually changed a lot for a lot of different teams. You know, you had Jackson Dart from Ole Miss get drafted. Curious to see what Ole Miss is looking like next year. You've got Shador and Travis Hunter leaving Colorado for the draft. I'm very curious to see how things go for Colorado. I don't have as much high expectations for them, but very curious to see how things go. So it's just going to be a very interesting college football season, and I am so excited for it. Game I'm most excited for coming up, too, is Week 0. We've got a Farmageddon being played in Ireland, Iowa State, and Kansas State. That's going to be a really fun matchup. It's a conference matchup in Week 0. I cannot wait for that kickoff of that game. Another big shout out I want to give. Follow Rob Wright from the basketball team on Twitch. He's been doing a lot of live streams of him playing some one-on-one pickup with a lot of the new guys and especially AJ. If you want a sneak peek at this BYU basketball team, watch his stream. So entertaining, super fun to watch. Some really good high-level basketball being played. With that said, basketball season is coming up soon too. Season tickets for basketball and football both sold out really fast. Very controversial. A lot of people not super thrilled about that. I think it's good. It's a good way to hang with the high-level competition that we're expected to be with now. I'm really happy about it. I'm really excited for that. Another big thing, another topic I also want to touch on here. Again, I'm kind of just rambling at this point. Like I said, a little bit more conversational in this show rather than the last one. BYU football announced the uniforms they're wearing for all the games this year. I'm happy with the combinations. I also think that a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. I think there's going to be surprises this year. I think there's going to be alternates like a throwback. I think there's a chance we see a blackout again. To that point, though, if we don't, I'm happy with what we have. I like that we only have one Navy matchup. I'm of the opinion that if we want to have our identity be this, regularly weekly changing combination of white and royal, then I think Navy needs to be our alternate. I think if we want to be doing royal, the next week, white, royal, white, and keep changing it every single week, I'm great with that, as long as we don't try to have a couple navies thrown in there and some other alternates. I'm of the opinion that if we are going with this consistent changing of combinations with the royal, then navy is going to be our alternate. So otherwise, I think we should stick with the classic white, royal, white, all white, and our white, royal, and have the occasional alternate of the white lids, the navy lids, things like that. So that's just my opinion on another popular topic going on social media right now with BYU. But yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. That's kind of all I got notes on for today. I'm very excited for the season. I think it's going to be a really good season. I think, expectations are rightfully so pretty high for this team. I'm also excited for the college football season in general. It's going to be a fun season of football to watch, everyone, and excited to dive into it, talk through it each week with you all. With this new show, what you can kind of expect, we're going to be doing this episode, which is dropping a month before the first game, before kickoff for BYU. Once that happens, we're going to be doing weekly episodes throughout the fall and winter sports seasons. What that means is we're going to be doing weekly episodes through football. We're going to pick up basketball once basketball starts. We're going to continue through until March, until basketball ends. Off season, don't know what that's going to look like yet. But my goal for now is weekly episodes through the fall and winter sports seasons. Again, we're going through a little bit of a revamp. All these new things with the show that I'm really, really excited for. So make sure you subscribe and tune in. Check out our socials. We have changed our social usernames. It formerly used to be Coug Talk Podcast. It has since changed. We are now going to be at Y Talk Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. We're also going to have a YouTube channel starting up. Same thing, Y Talk Podcast. From our YouTube channel, what you can expect is some hype edits, maybe some highlights, as well as any other interviews we do. We're going to just put the individual interviews there. We're not going to be posting whole episodes there just because YouTube can be a little bit of a pain to work with. But interviews will be posted there so you can watch the interview, see the players' faces face to face. We're going to be doing a lot of edits this year as well, some video edits, which I'm really excited for. So again, revamping this whole thing, got a lot of goals, got a lot of exciting plans for it, and can't wait to have you all join on this new show. But that's all we've got for you today. Again, make sure you tune in on the week of kickoff. We're going to post our Portland State preview episode a couple days before that game's kickoff. I'm going to aim to do Wednesdays before kickoff. So make sure you tune in on that day for that next episode. But otherwise, again, give us a follow on our social media. Excited for the football season, and we will talk to y'all next time.